Hey friends, welcome back to She's At It Again. My name's Tanya, and it's Saturday afternoon. We're having guests for lunch tomorrow after church, and I need to make a dessert. So I am going to show you how to make an old Southern sugar cake. This is a cake that does not have frosting, but it is so fabulous, you won't miss a thing. If somebody says, "Where's the frosting?" go, just take a bite of it, and you'll see. So let's get started. I'm going to set this camera down to where it's supposed to be on the countertop. We're going to turn our oven on now. We're going to set our oven for 350. And I have my container of warm milk here. This is a cup of warm milk, and I'm adding it to a half cup of butter. I'm going to add just part of it right there. And then I'm going to get a cup of sugar. This is raw sugar. It's unbleached sugar. It comes in a package that says Zulka on it, and you can get it at your local big store, I'm sure. I bought it there for years, and it is really, really good. Okay, let's beat this. Okay, that's not all the beating we're going to do, but I wanted to add my vanilla to it. This is my jar of vanilla. And it calls for 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. I've got my little medicine dropper in there. It's getting low enough to where I'm going to have to put it in a different bottle, sadly enough, because I really like this bottle. Okay, 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. And we're going to put the rest of the milk in there too. My butter was really soft when I started out. That's why it looked like it was pretty easy to incorporate into that sugar, because it was soft. Okay, let's beat this a little more and make it fluffy. Okay, not quite fluffy. Actually, it's kind of lumpy. I think I've made this cake 3 or 4 times, and every time I make it, I think, why don't I make this more? Oh, yeah, I remember, because I will eat it all. It's kind of ridiculous. Okay, in here we have 2 1/8 cup of flour. So 2 level cups of flour and 2 tablespoons is basically what that is. To that, we are going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. And 4 teaspoons of baking powder. And this is baking powder with no aluminum in it. That's become more and more important to me as time has gone on. So if you can find it with no aluminum, then that would be great. I think Rumford makes the one with no aluminum in it. There are some store brands that do also. I got this at my local Good Measure, so it's just a bulk jar. I'm sure it's probably Rumford that they just repackaged in this because they got it in a big giant container. Just lightly mix that together. Now what you don't want to do at this point is put this in here and just beat it and beat it and beat it, because it's going to get really tough. The gluten will build up the proteins in it, and it'll make it, let's say, just less appealing than you would if you'd make it light and fluffy. So we're going to beat it just until it gets mixed in well. Okay, I only turned it on high at the end just to get the batter off of the beaters. Now, we're going to switch bowls and switch beaters because we're going to beat our egg whites. I have 4 egg whites in this container, or in this cup, measuring cup. So I have a different beater I'm going to put on my mixer. Egg whites will not beat up if you have the least a bit of fat in there. So what you don't want to do is go, oh, I'll just use the beaters that I used over there because this has butter in it and they're not going to beat up light and fluffy. So you want to make sure your beater is completely clean and free of any residue that could be on there, including any egg yolk that might have gotten in there. Got to get that out or it's just not going to work. Okay, let's beat these till they're light and fluffy. Put our mixer aside. I'm going to try to get a little bit of this off the beaters. You know how I don't like to waste anything. And this batter is so good. Sometimes just the most simple ingredients just make the best things, including butter, sugar, flour, and vanilla. It's just simple and perfect. Our egg whites are considered to be beaten stiff. They would hold their shape if I turned that bowl upside down. And I will show you that. If it falls out, this will be the best video ever. Make sure all that flour is incorporated in there. I normally use my stand mixer to make this, but I actually started out making something else. I had butter in there to make something else, and then I changed my mind on what I was going to make. So that's why I'm using a hand mixer, which I like using a hand mixer. Okay, this is what the egg whites do. When you turn the bowl upside down, they're not going to move. So, whew, I'm glad that worked. Okay, we're going to take these egg whites and fold these in. Do about half at a time. And basically folding in is just this. I'm taking it and folding it under and around. I'm not necessarily stirring it or beating it. I want there to be tufts of egg white in there. Man, my hands are so messy at this point. I have a friend that teaches school locally, and she used to do some kind of study with her kids. I think it was 4th graders that she taught, perhaps, and she would bring the kids over here because we live so close to the school. It was a pretend evacuation. They were being evacuated from London and to a town called Tinterton, And it all had to do with the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and all this stuff. Anyway, she would bring them over here, and we would pretend that they were evacuating to my house and that I lived in the country, and these children who didn't know me were going to be living with me for an undeclared amount of time. And it was just so sweet. But she's been doing that for years, and we had to stop a few years ago. I think it was in 2020 when all the pandemic stuff started, and we stopped doing it, but it was kind of funny. But I would make one of these cakes when those kids would come over, because it just looked so rustic and simple, because we're actually going to bake this in a cast iron skillet. There's the oven. And the kids just thought that was so much fun. They thought it was cornbread when I first brought it out, because it kind of looks like a pan of cornbread. But they would then, in part of their English lessons, they would write me a letter and tell me how grateful they were that we would take children in and all this stuff, and it was just so sweet, but they all mentioned the cake. That's how good the cake is. Even the kids liked it. Okay, the only thing I've done to my cast iron skillet is just, I took a little bit of butter and just spread it in the bottom of it. It's not thick by any means. It just is making it shiny. So the cake has never stuck before, so I'm assuming it won't do it this time. But we're going to pour our batter in. I'm kind of glancing over at my recipe to make sure I have everything in here, but now's really not a good time to think about that. And we'll get all this out of the bowl. Okay, I think pretty much we have it all there. Just spread it out to the edges. See how we still have those lovely little specks of egg in there. Okay, kind of shake it around. Our oven buzzer went off, so that means our oven is preheated. And we are going to cook this for 40 to 45 minutes. So when it's almost ready, I'll turn the camera back on and we'll let you see what it looks like. Okay, this was cooked for 40 minutes. And look at that. Isn't that beautiful? It looks like cornbread, but it's not, I'm telling you. It is. It has to be one of my favorite things. Now, you can put strawberries on this if you want to. Just don't mess with some frosting. That would just that wouldn't be right. This is so delightful by itself. It's so light. It is just the perfect texture and so easy. You saw how easy that was to put together. Very little time, very little effort. So anyway, this is just something that I really, really hope you try. If you have a skillet, perfect. If you don't have a skillet, just use a pan, whatever you have. But the skillet just makes it perfect. It's so typical of how Southerners would make something way back when, long before I was born. But anyway, I hope you enjoy this. So thanks for joining us. We look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. And let me know if you try this. Let me know how good it is in the comments. I hope you feel the same way that I feel about it. Whenever you take your first bite, you're just going to go, wow, such simple ingredients, and it's so good. So thanks for joining us. Always appreciate it. Thanks, friend. Bye.